Governor of the state of Texas.
It's been interesting for political observers to watch the relationship between you and George W. Bush. In 2000, you said the campaign that he ran against you was not honorable. In 2004, this was the scene, stop after stop on the campaign trail, hugs and, yes, kisses all around. McCain and Bush, buddy-buddy, which led Jim Pinkerton, a columnist who worked for former President Bush, to observe this. Blunt truth never lasts long. John McCain, for example, has become a born-again Bushophile, and that was the end of him as an honest, independent voice. And that has been a whole series of commentary this last couple of weeks. E.J. Dionne in the Washington Post has this, a maverick no more. The Washington Times, conservative paper, Senator John McCain, who has consistently opposed President Bush's tax cuts, recently voted to extend some of them, a move conservatives say is a political flip-flop intended to further his White House ambitions. When Mr. Bush's $1.35 trillion tax cut bill came up for a final vote in May of 2001, McCain was one of two Republicans to say, no, I cannot in good conscience support a tax cut in which so many of the benefits go to the most fortunate among us at the expense of middle-class Americans who need tax relief, he said at the time. Now, record deficits, and John McCain says, I'm for the Bush tax cut.
Well, first of all, I've got to go back to your initial statement. I didn't say that President Bush ran a dishonorable campaign. I said that things were done that were wrong. I don't believe they were done by President Bush. I met with then Governor Bush 3 months after I dropped out of the race, and we met, and I supported and campaigned for him in the year 2000. Not 2004, 2000. And I supported him in his foreign and other policy matters as President of the United States, and I'm proud to do so. I disagreed with him on several issues. I still do. But in 2004, I believe that the transcendent issue of that campaign was who was best equipped to fight the war on terror. And that's why I was
on March
glad.
Of 2000,
so I
March
did not
of 2000,
change my position.
March of 2000, Senator, I asked you
if
you believe that George Bush ran an honorable campaign, and you said, I cannot say that.
Quote, ran an honorable campaign. I put those things behind me. I don't look back in anger. I don't think the American people expect me to look back in anger. Things are said and done in political campaigns which are pretty tough, and campaigns are tough in America, and they should be. But my support for him was announced 3 months after the primary was over in the year 2000.
But you're now voting for the tax cut, which you had not voted for. You came out and said we should teach intelligent design in classes as well as evolution. Jerry Falwell, you're now giving the commencement address at Liberty University in May. This is what you said about Jerry Falwell in February of 2000. Let's watch.
Neither party should be defined by pandering to the outer reaches of American politics and the agents of intolerance, whether they be Louis Farrakhan or Al Sharpton on the left, or Pat Robertson or Jerry Falwell on the right.
Agents of intolerance. And you were asked about that speech, and you said this, I must not and will not retract anything that I said in that speech at Virginia Beach. It was carefully crafted. It was carefully thought out. Based on that, do you believe that Jerry Falwell is still an agent of intolerance?
I would like to first respond to several comments that you made as a predicate. First of all, on the tax cuts. I do not believe in tax increases. Now, it was a gimmick that the tax cuts were temporary and then had to be made permanent. The tax cuts are now there, and in voting to revoke them would have been not to extend them would have meant a tax increase. I've never voted for a tax increase.
Well, that's important.
In my life.
But
yeah,
it would mean is
that I finish saying what I said.
But let me just, for the record, it would have gone back to tax rates that you had supported.
Yes, but the economy had adjusted. The tax cuts were there, and if it would have been, and that's the way it was designed, would have been tantamount to a tax increase, and and I've never voted for a tax increase in my life, with the exception of
so there's no politics.
No, I do things because I think they're right. I mean, and obviously, people are free to judge however they want to. As regards to Reverend Falwell, which is the major thrust of your comments, I met with Reverend Falwell. He came to see me in Washington. We agreed to disagree on certain issues, and we agreed to move forward. I believe that speaking at Liberty University is no different from speaking at the New College or Ohio State University, all of which I'm speaking. I speak at a lot of colleges and universities. I'm pleased to have the opportunity to do so, to talk to young Americans and talk to them about the obligations and the privileges of freedom.
But Senator, when you were on here in 2000, I asked you about Jerry Falwell, and this is what you said.
Governor Bush swung far to the right and sought out the base support of Pat Robertson and Jerry Falwell. Those aren't the ideas that I think are good for the Republican Party.
Do you think that Jerry Falwell's ideas are now good for the Republican Party?
I believe that the quote, Christian right has a major role to play in the Republican Party. One reason is because they're so active and their followers are. And I believe they have a right to be a part of our party. I don't have to agree with everything they stand for, nor do I have to agree with everything that's on the liberal side of the Republican Party. If we have to agree on every issue, we're not a Republican Party. I believe in open and honest debate. Was I unhappy in the year 2000 that I lost a primary and there were some attacks on me that I thought was unfair? Of course. Should I get over it? Can I serve the people of Arizona best by looking back in anger or moving forward?
Do you believe that Jerry Falwell is still an agent of intolerance?
No, I don't. I think that Jerry Falwell can explain to you his views on this program when you have him on.
After September 11th, let me show you what Reverend Falwell had to say. What we saw on September 11th, as terrible as it is, could be minuscule if in fact God continues to lift the curtain and allow the enemies of America to give us probably what we deserve. I really believe that the pagans and the abortionists and the feminists and the gays and lesbians who are actively trying to make that an alternative lifestyle, I point the finger in their face and say, you helped this happen. Are you embracing that?
I am speaking at the graduation of his university. I'm not embracing all of the tenets that are expressed at the New College in New York City, nor other liberal universities and institutions that I have spoke at. For example, I don't agree with the Ivy League colleges of barring recruiters, military recruiters, from their campuses, but I still speak there.
Are you concerned that people are going to say, I see, John McCain tried Straight Talk Express, Maverick, it didn't work in 2000, so now in 2008, he's going to become a conventional, typical politician, reaching out to people that he called agents of intolerance, voting for tax cuts he opposed, to make himself more appealing to the hardcore Republican base?
I think most people will judge my record exactly for what it is, where I take positions that I stand for and I believe in, whether it be climate change, whether it be torture, or whether it be a number of other issues with which I am in immigration. I don't think that my position on immigration is exactly pleasing to the far-right base. I will continue to take positions that I believe in and I stand for. And I recognize that a lot of my credibility is based on that, and I think most Americans will judge me by my entire record.
When do you make a decision whether to run for president?
Next year.
07?
07.
Early?
I haven't exactly ascertained that. My focus and efforts are the 2006 elections, which are going to be very tough for Republicans, and we all know that. And I've spent yesterday, and I'm spending a lot of time going around and campaigning for Republicans, and that's the focus of my efforts between now and this November.
Reverend Falwell said that you had expressed a willingness to support a federal marriage amendment which would define a union between a man and a woman. Is that true?
Reverend Falwell was asked again about that, and he clarified it. My position has always been that I will vote against a constitutional amendment, which will come before the Senate on this issue, because I think the states should decide. That's the essence of federalism. In my state of Arizona, we have a ballot initiative on this issue, which I am supporting. And so, but if the courts, through the court process, they say that that's not constitutional, then I would support a constitutional amendment.
Before you go, last week you talked about people raising your temper as an issue. I read an interview you gave Fortune magazine. You lose battles in politics. I do get good and angry, really angry. By God, I'm not going to let them beat me again. I don't like to lose.
I was laughing when I said that, and I was joking. I spend every day saying to myself, stay calm, stay cool, be passionate, but neither get angry nor personal. And those are two important lessons that I've learned over the years. I spent a lot of time burning bridges early in my political campaign, but political life. Now I work to try to build bridges.
And we'll be watching. Senator John McCain, thanks for joining us and sharing your views.
I haven't had so much fun since my last interrogation.